Hi, my name is Yasenny Camejo, and I'm a marketing consultant, and I'm excited to share on conversations with Pearl.
Hello, sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here. Once you leave the clouds, you're under 80. Funny how there ain't no rain or clear. Why'd it take so long to leave you in the rearview mirror? Now nobody gonna steal my sunshine or turn my blue sky gray. All I know is at the end of the day, wildflowers grow when there ain't no shade.
Hey, everybody, it's Pearl, and I'm so excited to have you on another episode of Conversations with Pearl. And it's been a crazy summer here in Tampa, Florida, and I'm so excited to share my guest with you today because we're going to talk about some of the fun things she's done this summer with her family and also about her business. And she's also a sweet, dear friend who's also sponsoring our Women's Successful Living Retreat this year. So I'm so excited to introduce you to Yasenny Camejo. She's an extensive multimedia and brand management experience. She is your go-to marketing strategic consultant. So while working with her clients every step of the way, Yasenny develops and implements digital marketing strategies that grow your business's bottom line. The strategy is designed specifically for your individual business goals and values, all while growing audience reach and telling your unique story to the world. Yasenny brings 7 years of proven nonprofit and government-based organization experience and overall 25 years of overall marketing experience in a variety of sectors like security, interior design, robotics, education, travel, and more. Yasenny, I'm so excited to have you on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate the time. And I'm happy to be a sponsor for the wine sponsor.
Yeah,
So it's
we are
great.
so excited. We can't wait. And it's your first retreat, and I've been trying to get you to come for so many years. So you're in for a
Yes.
treat yourself.
Well, I mean, with small children, it was kind of difficult, but they're getting to the point where I'm like, Dad, take them. I'm going on a retreat. And he's like, okay, sounds wonderful. I'm like, okay.
Oh, it's so amazing, and that's what this show is all about. Is talking about how to create that harmony in your life, and where when you feel comfortable and ready to start stepping in some of the things you want to do. As a I call it CEO mom, and CEO mom for me was I hate the word work from home or stay at home mom, working out of the house mom, because we're so much more than that. The mom title, yeah, we're a mom, but we're so much more than that title. And I don't know any woman who sits home as a mom who stays at the old stay at home and eats bonbons all day and doesn't work. And I got that from my sister-in-law. I went to go visit her one year, and she's like, "Hey, you want to come upstairs? Sean's going to put his clothes away." He was like 4 years old. I'm like, "He's going to put his clothes away?" So she's like, "Yeah." So we went upstairs, and I just thought it was so cool because of the fact that I was watching her. She's like, "I run this like a business. We have to be prepared for him to understand that I don't do everything, that we all are a team in this house and to run things together." And so that's where I was like, "Oh, so you're like a CEO mom?" She's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "That's really cool." And so I just think even for me, I did so many things outside of the house as a working mom. And I would come home, and if I wanted to do something in my community, the one neighborhood I lived in was kind of shunning me because I didn't stay at home all day. And, and at that point I was like, I'm more than just somebody who works outside the house. And so you're such a great example to your girls. And I love what you said that too, is we get to a point where we feel comfortable and ready to start pouring back into ourselves and creating that harmony in our life. So I think it's really, really important that we remember that. And so I want tell us about your business and what you do, and tell us a little bit about Yasenny. We know you're a great mom, and we talk about your business, but tell us a little bit about you yourself and growing up, what that was like for you.
Oh, wow. There's a lot. There's a lot there. So my business, I treat it, like you said, my house, I work from home and my children are home with me while I work from home. It's not like I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm very busy, as you said, all the time. And, you know, we have schedules, the kids have schedules. It's still very structured in that sense, but also unstructured because we travel quite a bit. So that's a whole other aspect of what we do. Um, I grew up very different in a home that my brother and my sister went to traditional school. They went, you know, they always like look at me and they're like, you didn't go to regular school, because I went to magnet schools. And so my education was extremely thorough. And I felt like I had a higher level of investment in my education because I went to these schools. I never went to my home school. I was always like outside of my neighborhood. I was never really home, to be honest with you. My sister, my brother was like, yeah, you weren't home quite a bit, because I was always, you know, either transporting to school or back, or on, you know, different excursions and things like that, because those schools were very active in the community, and, you know, going to museums and this and that, because I was in the art program, or doing performances because I also did some music. And so a lot of my childhood was spent that way. And I learned that both the arts and just education in general was really important to my children, to be thorough. And I didn't really feel like, you know, when COVID happened, when we were able to do the virtual program, we said, wow, this is really interesting, because it actually allows us to have the life that we want. My husband and I had always talked about travel and bringing the kids with us, but we just didn't know how we were going to do it. But it just afforded us the opportunity to do it. And now this is what we do. You know, I work from home. My husband works from home also. We tag team quite a bit of the tasks for schooling, and then we also work. And so we figure out the schedule somehow and do it. And my business, I run the business because of the flexibility and the love I have for consulting my clients, because a lot of people who I worked with when I was working in government, when I was working in other businesses, they're like, you're so good at what you do. Why don't you do that for other businesses? Just, you know, across the board.
And that is, I love that, like, we talk about COVID and the things that have happened and not happened since COVID. And I love to hear stories like what you said, where you took the things at COVID that were a challenge for many families, you know, many moms and dads, and, you know, having to become a teacher at home all of a sudden, right? And you both sat down and looked at this as an opportunity to, what can we do with this to enable our family to do some of the things we want to do, you know? And so, yeah. And that's so powerful. That's what I love to coach on, is like, when something gives us a challenge, you know, why do I have the challenge and what can I do with it? You know, and how can we maybe pivot with it, or maybe we have to change something on it. It's like, I always talk about, you know, life is like a mountain. Every time you climb this mountain, there's going to be rocks or stones or something that's going to come in your way. So sit down and, you know, take some lunch out and look at what stones are thrown at you and what stones you need to throw away, and then keep climbing. And then what you guys did was so powerful that you said, okay, let's do this so that we can be more time with our girls, do some traveling, and then also be, you know, present in their lives. And it's so great, because I love, you know, we're going to talk more about what some of the things you've been doing, but I love watching that. And, you know, people talk all the time about we have to find balance in our life. And I always say, you can never have a perfect scale. There's no way a scale is always going to be perfect. There's something that's going to weigh a little more than the other one. But if you can find harmony in your life, then that's so much more peaceful. And that's just my opinion. And that it can bring more peace to you. It can bring less stress. And then as you engage, like what you did, you and your husband said, let's share these responsibilities. So it's not just on mom and or dad, you know, we're sharing the responsibilities, and let's figure out our schedule. I remember during COVID, my husband, he worked for the government, and he had an employee who both him and his wife worked for the government. And, you know, those hours are very like 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., very kind of set. And so my husband said to his employee, one of his staff members, like, we can't figure this out. And he's like, listen, as long as you get the work done for me, if she can't be flexible with her schedule because her supervisors aren't letting you, you've got it from me. So, you know, and so they were able to create that that harmony and like what you're doing. And I think it's so awesome. So tell us, what would you say, Yasenny, have been some of the challenges with creating that? Like you just don't go, okay, we're going to do this, stay home and everything's going to be perfect, right? There had to be challenges. So what were some of the challenges you and your hubby went through to create that road to harmony, and that, this whole new world of virtual schooling and having girls home while you're both are working from home? Like, what were some of the challenges you had to overcome, and how did you do that?
Well, one challenge that in particular is that you're always all together. So sometimes, it's finding those times to just kind of separate and have your own time. So because you're working and you're doing school and you're kind of recreating at the same time all at home. So it's like you have to find those moments where it's like, okay, I need my space, you need your space. And I think we found that we have a big enough house that we can kind of go to our separate sides, even though we all end up in the same space. It's the strangest thing. Like we just gravitate towards each other. So it's kind of cool like that. The other challenge I would say is getting that schedule right. It's tough. We have to prioritize certain things, and sometimes we goof, and we schedule things on top of each other, and we've managed, like, and we over communicate. We try to like really create that sense of like, okay, here's what my week looks like, here's what my day looks like. I mean, it's on an ongoing basis. So, but when we goof, we just try to figure out the best way to get around the day and figure things out. And, we have support from his mother. And so we'll just kind of work our magic however we can. And I think the other thing is, just, when things get like stressful, it's tough because we're all stressed out. It's not just like one person. So my husband's really good at levity. And so it kind of helps with, our personalities that, when we're all stressed, we're like, okay, we got to tone it down. We got to figure out how to, manage the stress amongst all of us, because, the kids get stressed too. And you see it in them. And most parents who work away from home, and then their kids are in school, don't see the stress that the kids go through. They just see the aftermath, right? They see the behavioral changes. We see the actual stress. And so we're able to manage their stress, manage ours, create that environment where, like if you are stressed, okay, you need to, figure out how to like get that stress away and help each other out. So it's been a challenge in that sense. I say emotionally, I say stressful, and just keeping each other motivated too. It's hard because you're constantly around each other.
Well, I think, like you said, it's the communication, like even that over communicating, right? To know, to understand the schedules, and then like you said, like getting it right, getting that schedule right. I mean, I don't think anybody ever has a right schedule. I mean, I feel like even me, who has no kids at home, trying to manage, taking care of a mom who moved in with us and all her meds and doctor's appointments. It's like my husband and I was teaching him how to use Google Calendar. He's never used Google Calendar. I was like, oh, I'm like, you have to go here. You have to click yes. He's like, I have to go to my email and then click yes. I'm like, oh Lord, I hope this is going to work.
We live by a Google Calendar. My 8-year-old lives by her calendar. She follows it to a T. My 5-year-old's about to get into the program, and we haven't quite shown her yet the calendar, but she understands. Like she has like a little paper calendar, and like if she has a goal, like she starts school on August 10th, right, just like every other kid, and she has it like marked in X's, and she's like waiting for those days. Or like when we were going to Africa, like she was marking the days till we left, and just those types of things. But you really, if you treat it like goal oriented types of activities, they will motivate themselves to do things and be happy about being home. And just it's the carrot versus the stick mentality, like
yes,
we try to do the carrot as much as possible.
I love that. And then, like you talk about, we often forget about the stress our kids have at school. And like you said, we don't see it at school. One of the things that I learned with my oldest son, who was born of our heart, we adopted him at a month old, and it was mixed race, was like, I didn't know this till after he got out of school, how much he was actually bullied by
Oh yeah.
people of his own race because he was with a white family. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, mom, you don't really. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I was talking, because we lost him last year, and I was talking, we did a gathering for his birthday at his graveside, and one of his friends who is not adopted but is mixed race, he's like, oh, Mama Pearl, you don't understand. I'm like, really? I was like, so you're right. We don't know the stress they deal with all day long because we forget to talk about that. I think for those of us that have or had kids that go to traditional school, I think we forget to ask those questions about, we ask about how was your class, and we ask, all that, but what, maybe a question of, so what happened today, or did any, some sort of question around the emotional part that leads to the stress part that they've had, so you can
Right.
address the stress, especially with so much
Well,
bullying happening in the world today.
I think one of the things that I mean, we tend to do this on a regular basis, so they're practiced in this, and it's more like what happened that was good today and what happened that was not so good today. The other thing is what made you happy? Did you make someone else happy? What made you unhappy? What challenges did you have today? Or, and we don't talk about this like the schooling part of it, but it's more like how did you handle everything that happened today? Right? Like that's the aspect that
Those are powerful questions to add, and they're great leading into more
yeah.
discussion questions. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And they talk about their feelings. They talk about, well, this didn't go so well today. I'm like, did you handle it well? No, I didn't handle it very well. Okay, so how are we going to handle it better tomorrow? Well, this is what we're going to do. And it also helps me in my business because I think one of the things that I've learned is, well, that meeting didn't go very well. Well, why didn't it go well? And I can kind of review with my own self, like the things that I'm teaching them, the skills that I'm teaching them on myself, believe it or not.
That's amazing to also remember that as business owners, because we forget to ask ourselves sometimes, what was good about that? What wasn't good about that? How did this go for me today? How, that's great. And it's so cool how we can learn things from our kids as well. So I think it's just so powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're always teaching us something, right? They're so innocent. I saw a TikTok the other day of a little boy. He had his kindergarten graduation, and I guess he had lost his mom in a fire earlier in the year. And he had gone, did not miss one day of school. He got perfect attendance. He did, I think, something with I don't know. He got these different awards, right? And so he was doing a speech at his graduation for kindergarten, and he was
Oh,
a talk, like I was like, boy, he sounds like he's already graduating high school, the way he was talking and everything. And then he's going, I'm doing this for my mom and honoring my mom, and I loved her so much. And then he thanked his teacher, and then his dad was in the audience. He's telling his dad, and you're the best dad ever. You've been so supportive for me with mommy gone. And it was just, you're sitting there and going, can we keep that? Can we like bottle that up and let him carry that the rest of his life before world and stuff starts getting in the way of that great thinking?
we always say that, my husband and I, like, we are trying to preserve our children's happiness as long as possible so that they learn the things that they need to learn in life without damaging their ability to learn how to cope with the world. So, we give them life experiences like travel and those things, but at the same time, we still, I guess, try to protect their innocence and their happiness. I think the happiness is the most important thing because the last thing we need is our kids to be stressed and miserable and unhappy and really just not, you know, like they don't want to be part of a society. I think that's the biggest problem that kids have nowadays, especially teenagers, is that they don't really know how to cooperate with society. It's almost like this anti-cooperation of society, um, which is what's causing a lot of strife amongst people and bullying and all of that. It's like they don't want to cooperate with people. They don't want to be okay with people. They want to be against it. And so I think one of the things that I think is really important is that your kids need to talk to other people. And my kids do. My kids go everywhere and they're like, hi, how's it going? Um, but even adults, I have this problem with adults. You're like, hello, how are you? And they don't talk to you. And you're like, what is this? And in business, we're friendly people. When you're a business owner, you're friendly, and you have to be as an entrepreneur. You have to be able to talk to just about any personality in person. But we've gone away from that with kids too. So um, teaching them that people aren't scary, people are normal. No, yes, there's bad guys and there's people that you have to be aware of, but that comes with experience.
And that's, you're right. I think we forget about those conversations and how we need to do those conversations. And and I totally agree with you. We're trying to talk the other day. I have two French chaperones that are here. They came over with 23 students, and we're doing comparison about, they're both teachers, and well, one's retired and one is newly, and they're starting to see some of the things that our schools are dealing with here starting to come over in France. And she actually said the same thing. If we can learn to have these conversations, with the students and let them openly learn how to communicate, going back to communication about our feelings and stuff, maybe it wouldn't be so hard once they get to school, because she's like, they're so, they're bringing all those emotions into the classroom, and you're being a teacher and kind of a therapist at the same time now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So she said, yeah, for sure. But yeah, so let's talk about your business. I know we have a little bit of time. We've got like 20 minutes left here together, but let's talk about your business. So why did you go off on your own? You shared earlier how, people saw everything you're doing is like, you should open your business. And that's a scary thing, to leave something that, okay, this is kind of comfortable and I'm really, and then go, I'm going to take that leap and I'm going to step into opening my own business. What was that like? Where was the deciding factor for you to do that?
There's so many. But the earning potential. I mean, you really have an unlimited earning potential as long as you can handle the work, right? That was one. And two, it was to spend time with my girls. I was away from home 16 hours a day. My husband was really, primary. I was secondary. I left home anywhere between 6:15 and 6:30 in the morning. And I returned home at 6:30, 7 o'clock, sometimes 8 o'clock at night, working, away from the home when I was in the county. And then, just really didn't like that schedule and just the things that came around that. And then my husband was working part-time at the time. And so it was really kind of one of these things where I was like, we can't continue this. This was just, it was tough for the two of us because I was away all the time. And then he was, full time with the girls, but more so that it was just not sustainable for our family. And just the finances weren't right and everything wasn't right. But I had been already consulting when I was working, and I was working with, different kinds of clients that I had had from years and years and years. And they just didn't want to let me go because I had left certain companies, and they were just like, can you work for us? And I was like, I can't work for you, but I can do some consulting. And so it was really a part-time thing for a very long time. I freelanced for a super long time. And then everybody's like, well, you must do this like full time. You have to. It's just, you're so good at it. We love it. Let's talk about this. And I had some talks with different companies about coming on board as, their consultant full time. And, it wasn't right. And then my husband and I just decided it was better because he was coming more onto a role of full time in his business and his company. And his company was starting to make him travel more. And the kids were getting a little bit bigger. The little one was closer to 2. And we were just like, okay. So his business was traveling all of Florida. And he was leaving to Gainesville all the time. And we were in South Florida. And so he said, what if we moved to Central Florida? And it makes it easier for him to travel. And then I could be home with the girls. And then I was like, I can't not work. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I can't not work. I have to work, And so that's where I was like, I'm going to go out on my own. And he supported me wholly. But then COVID hit right as we moved to Central Florida. And we were like, wow, this is kind of game changer because I had clients, I lost all those clients because they were like, no, we don't know what's going on with, COVID. And it was just really tumultuous at that point. But I said, you know what? I'm not going to let that stop me. I gain clients. I can gain them again, just in a different way. And, started networking. I met you, I met a bunch of people through different networking opportunities. And I think that just kind of made me stronger, and it made me realize, this is how it's going to be in business. You don't just do it once, you're constantly doing it. And so that initial pain of 2020, kind of the first 3 months were painful because you're like, what is going to happen? This is not normal, right? Um, it just kind of, like, I guess, broke me in for what was to come. And the past few years have been great. So I'm grateful for that time frame. It was kind of hard, but it was good.
Yeah, and I think I love what you said too. Like, when COVID, like how again, I feel like today's sessions should be labeled communication, because like you guys communicated the needs for the family and said, how do we make this work? And then, you and your husband talked about the things you need to put in place, and you did that. And then, like you said, bam, here comes COVID. And then having that confidence, I think sometimes we forget that. And I think in general, as people, we forget that these things are going to come at us, and how we respond
Yeah.
it will determine how our next step is going to be. And to have that confidence to say, I've done this before, I can do this again. It's just different. Now it's just different. There's nothing that I wasn't doing before that I can't do now. I'm just going to have to do it differently. Right. And so to look
Right.
at that challenge and go, I can do this challenge. It's like, it's like people often say to me, with the passing of Matt last year, we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary, and they say, you're so strong. How do you do it? And I'm like, I lived my life like that when he was alive. Yeah, I'm not going to say that every day I don't miss him. I don't get up every day. And, some days I get up and cry. Sometimes I don't get up and cry, but I lived my life with putting myself first. And it took a lot. He watched me, and my younger son, Nate, watched me learn how to do that, and watched me learn to have things thrown at me. Like we're talking earlier, the stones, and how I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not saying yes to everybody anymore. I need to start showing up for me and stepping into the power of the word no. And so I was like, I can't live that life differently because he's not here, because then I'm truly not honoring what he saw me live. Right. And so now I'm living because I think he wants me to, live this way. And I actually went to a service last week or the week before for, I don't know if you know Tammy here in our community. She lost her son in a tragic car accident. Tammy owns a couple of our Chick-fil-A's here in our
Oh,
community here in Riverview. And so I went to the service, and the pastor, he said something. It sat with me when I left there. And I was like, I think that's part of why I've got the strength, is that I have that belief that this is life, and this is going to these things are going to happen to us, whether it's somebody passing, whether it's somebody's going to, throw daggers, or things, we're going to have COVID, things are going to happen. Right. But it doesn't happen to us. It doesn't have to be, we have to take that on. Often when I coach, and I will coach somebody, and they'll be like, everything bad happens to me. I'm like, okay, so everything's bad is going to continue to happen to you because you say that to yourself. Right. But if you can say, what's the lesson I can learn from this situation, and how do I take that lesson forward? I think that makes a world of difference. And I think, like you said, going back to communicating, you and your husband had the communication about you starting your business. And then here we go, we have COVID. And then it was communication of, wow, we've got this great thing in front of us that we can do. And now look how it can benefit our family as a whole, our entire unit of a family. Right. And I think that's so powerful. So tell everybody, I want to get into your trips and stuff, traveling, but I want everybody to know, tell everybody, like, what are some of the things you do for people that you work with, your clients? Let our audience know what are some of the things you do. And then also we'll have you share how they can reach out to you.
excellent. Yes. So a lot of what I do consulting on is branding and helping them understand what their business is, truly their message is. A lot of businesses that I work with, they're either within that, 2 to 5 year period where they just really didn't pay attention to their marketing. And then they're like, man, I really don't know what's going on with my business. I need to get going with that. And, I start them from square one, get them on the basics, make sure that they have a value statement, make sure that they understand who their audience is, what's happening within the audiences, and, just some of the demographics that don't matter within the target, because a lot of us are so focused on demos, and I don't focus on demographics at all. The targets are quite different. each business is unique. And so what your business has that can be a top selling point, and how to really extract some of that. And then some of the things that I work with clients on is fitting it into their schedule. It's very difficult when you haven't had your marketing, in your life, and you're kind of dealing with the finances, and you're dealing with operations, and you're dealing with how to get clients, but you're not really dealing with how to market yourself. That routine is often, not there. So helping clients work with that. And then budgets, really look at, what's actually can you do? Because not everyone has infinite amount of resources disposable to them. Some businesses have bigger margins and they can afford to do a lot of marketing, but a lot of other businesses can't. And really just the definitions, like, what is advertising? What is branding? What is marketing? There's so much out there, and a lot of people don't know what things are. They think they do. And then when they realize that we talk about different conversations about what things are, they're like, oh, I never realized that that's how I put this together. And so I put the puzzle pieces, clarify a lot of what the misnomers are out there, help them get on the road. And typically, my clients don't stay with me for more than 2 or 3 years. And that's good, because if they've grown out of me, then they've grown. And that is the point. I want them to grow. I want them to become, really good at their business and get out there. So, I think you had another question. I don't remember what.
No, I love what you said there too, because I think also I have the same philosophy. I want my clients to grow out of me. I want them to be so confident that they can handle anything that they just come in and they're like, hey, can I get a refresher check-in? Like just do a check-in, right? Yeah. I think it's so powerful. And like you said, so marketing and stuff like that is like, I call it doctor talk to me. I'm like, I can't do it. I'm not going to try to do it. I know my zone of genius, and that's not my zone of genius. So if you're listening and you think you're overwhelmed and you're like, oh my gosh, I get you, Pearl. I agree. It's like doctor talk. You definitely want to reach out to Yasenny. We're going to put all her contacts in the show notes and everything. She's going to share it with you here too. So if you got a piece of paper, you can grab it now and start writing it down. But Yasenny, show everybody how they can reach out to you and how they can find you.
They can find me on my website at yasenny.com, which is YASENNY, or you can email me at info@yasenny.com and just drop me a line, say hello, give me a little background on what you're trying to do with your business or who you are. And we can schedule a 30-minute consult and just figure out where your path to success is. Like I said, if I can't help them, I will definitely refer them to someone who can. Or if you have different needs than marketing, then I have, a network of people like you, Pearl. You have a big network of people. But I always like to have that conversation, because you just never know. You never know what it is that person is in need of.
Awesome. So we'll make sure everybody knows is in the show notes. But I want you guys to reach out to her, because Yasenny is we've been in network groups together. She's has a great vision for you and your business. And I just think it's so awesome. And so make sure if you need help, you're looking just to get on that consult with her, it's going to be well worth it for you. And now Yasenny, we've been talking about the kids, communication, everything. So for the listeners, understand Yasenny and her husband took, how old are your girls again? 8 and 5?
8 and 5.
8 and 5-year-olds to Africa, everybody. So I want to know, I remember when I took my kids who were not 8 and 5 they were a little older. We went on a cruise, to the Caribbean and stuff. I was like, oh my God, it was so much stress. But to Africa, and then we did Italy too when they were a little older. And that was like, oh, it was just like so much. So tell us how that came about, and tell us how the girls enjoyed it.
Well, they loved it. And they're very good travelers, because prior to that, we have done other big trips. We spent a month in Ohio with his father-in-law and the year prior. So it's kind of all leading up to, I guess, this trip and their prep. But the flying was the hardest part, but they did amazing. They got gold stars on all of that, but it was stressful. The prep is mental. You really just have to prep them for, the conversations, right? Like, this is what you're going to expect. You're going to expect sitting for a long time period. The flight's 17 hours from Atlanta. So that's something unheard of for a 8 and 5 year old, but they did it. They did it, and they did it with flying colors. We gave them comforts, like basically like their pillow, their blanket, their snacky, they're this, that. But they're very mature in the sense of travel. They know they're going to meet new people. They're going to have different things. You're going to try different foods. So that whole aspect of, getting up and getting out of your comfort zone, they're okay with. And I think that, we packed according to their needs, activities and little books and things like that. But we also, gave them experiences while we were there that helped them be comfortable. We went to playgrounds quite a bit, right? Like, even though that was we went to South Africa and we were in Cape Town. There's tons of playgrounds on the strip on Banyan Bay. And so, we hit each one of them. It's kind of interesting. There's so many of them. And of course, they remembered them. They were like, what was your favorite? That playground over there was really fun, and that kind of thing. But also, just different kind of experiences that they would never have. Like, we played with penguins. They were right there. Like they knew that was my favorite thing, and they were into it. And they were like, Mom, we're gonna go see the penguins for you. But really, they enjoyed it quite a bit too, right? We gave them educational experiences. We took them to townships. We showed them how people live, and how, we showed them things that are not normal, that, people don't have homes, people who are homeless. We showed them all kinds of lives. And I think it was important for them to see that kind of thing. And they're fearless. So they're get up and go girls. They go, that's it. And so it was a little bit difficult. We did have the safety in mind, and it's fine. It was fine. My husband and I took a lot of things into account, and we did our research, and it was fine.
It sounds like it was so much fun. And I thought it was so sweet. The girls were like, come on, we're going to go to the penguins for you. I think and again, that goes to communicating and sharing. Like, I really think when we do this, it's going to be communication, because I think it goes to communicating with our kids what are the things that we love to do, so they understand these are things that Mom and Dad like to do, and they recognize that, and they want to make sure that our cup is full too. And I think that's exactly what I love to coach on, is like, when you want to fill your cup, or I call it put your cape on, you've got to put it on you first and wrap it around. And then as you wrap around, that's when your family comes in, then everything else falls what's left. And for having that communication and wrapping them into that, what you like to do too, they can see and make sure that you put your cape on first. And I just love that. I think it's so awesome. All right. So we have a few minutes left here. So Yasenny, what's your favorite thing to do for self-care?
Oh, wow. Just the usual, like doing my hair and my nails and my eyebrows and getting a massage, and, just that usual stuff. Exercising,
I love, love, love massages. It's so, so, so much fun. So we're going to do so everybody who follows and listens to us, we're going to put everything in the show notes so you guys can get with Yasenny and reach out to her. And learn all about the communication, maybe even pick her brain about traveling with the kids and, virtual schooling and continue the harmony. I think it was great advice you had here. But Yasenny's familiar with these. They're called Better Questions, Better Life. We both have a mutual friend, Kara Gill, who created these cards with her friend, Diane Allen. And so we're going to shuffle the cards, and Yasenny, you're going to tell me when to stop, and then we're going to read your card to you. So here we go.
Stop.
Okay. So your card says, how can I find peace today?
Is it for me or is it for other people?
For you. How do you find peace today?
Oh, I already did it. I went swimming. For like 30 minutes. It was awesome.
Yay. So you make time for yourself every morning, Yasenny?
I try to.
Yeah. And it doesn't work. It doesn't always work, right? But that's okay, right? That's what we need to understand that it's okay. It's not always going to work out for us to get there and get it done. But it doesn't mean you don't try, right?
Yeah.
try. So one of the things that I get asked all the time is, of course, my kids are, forever 25 and Nate's 23 and living with his girlfriend, hopefully married soon. But, one of the things I often get asked is, how did you do self-care when you have kids? And I'm like, well, that was a learning process, but I learned to do things like, my oldest Matthew, he played football, but he had football feet, we called it. So he'd go get a pedi while I get a manicure, and we'd have great conversations. And I was like, that's self-care with your kids. Like there's things, self-care doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself. There's things you can do with your kids, right? So what are some of the things you'd like to do with your girls around that allows you to have self-care with them?
Yeah, I cut their nails, and I don't paint them, but I get them nice and pretty, and then I'll do mine and those types of things. Stretching, exercise, they like that. And just really try to get them active. So when I can get active also, it helps everybody in the house to be healthy and happy, and those types of scenarios. I think that's probably it, just including them in that aspect and teaching them, because the thing is that we think of self-care as you go to a room and you do it all by yourself, but you have to teach them to do it too, because otherwise they won't do it.
They have to see how we do it so they can learn. And that's what I talk about all the time. It's, it's so important that your kids are at that age right now where we have to make sure we show them and teach them how to say no to others, how to put ourselves first. And that's what you're doing. And at the same time, how to create that harmony. You're teaching them from Ohio to Africa to being home together and learning how to, communicate and helping them release their stresses. That's going to be so, so powerful as they grow into adulthood. And even as they hit their teenagers, it's going to be really powerful for them to know that. And you're also, again, communication, you're creating the opportunity for them to come and talk to you about what's on their mind. And if you're not there, you've given them the prompt kind of questions to ask. Well, how could I do that better? How did that affect me today? Those kind of questions. Was that good use of my time? All those kind of questions you're teaching them at this young age. And I think it's so important. We always, and studies show that, up to that 7 years, 8 years old, that's really when we start learning those things. After that, it's not so, they're going to learn it, but we have to keep practicing it. And that's really so, so powerful.
Yeah. And you see kids, who have, a lot of emotional depression and things like that when they get older. And it's because they're so far away from where they want to be emotionally, physically, everything, it's because they're not where they should be, and they're falling behind because no one's taught them to do those things. And so, you can't expect to now have a wonderful relationship with your 13, 14-year-old if you haven't had one all along. I mean, you can start, that's, better than nothing, but you have to do it from a very young age.
Totally excellent advice for everybody that's listening, whether you're a mom or not a mom. I think it's great advice if you're an aunt or uncle too, to get to know your nieces and nephews and have those conversations with them, because, if somebody's not doing it and nobody does it, then they can't learn. And your girls have great examples, and, we need to have mentors, and whether it's our parents or whether it's, our siblings or somebody around us, to have those mentors, and our teachers and so forth as well. So this has been so, so much fun. I've had a blast having you on the show. You guys, Yasenny's going to be our wine sponsor at our retreat. We have one spot left. So if anybody wants to come, all you have to go to wslivingretreats.com, wslivingretreats.com. You can grab the last spot because you don't want to miss out of having some great wine, which is what Yasenny's sponsoring. And then also get to know Yasenny even more on a personal basis at the retreat, but meet amazing women that are going to be there working on their self-care, as we also discover our dreaming relentlessly goals that we want and how to start achieving them. And so, Yasenny, I just want to thank you so much for joining us. And I want to remind all of our listeners that as you go out into the world, make sure you follow us on YouTube and you like us on YouTube and subscribe. We're on all the platforms for podcasting. But remember, you come into this world, you're a little rough on the outside of an oyster, but as you open up inside, you are this beautiful pearl. And I hope you go find your inner pearl to greatness. Have an amazing rest of your day.